thanks very much. Thanks very much. I think we're going to continue on now with a couple of hornpipes, which is another type of tune. Want to tell them about these ones, James?
Well, the hornpipes, the time signature is 4/4, so reels are in 4/4 and hornpipes are in 4/4. Hornpipes are they're maybe not played as much these days. Usually people play a lot of reels these days, but I always liked hornpipes, so I like to play them. And the first of these two tunes is called the Blackbird. It's a very Paul McCartney had his Blackbird, and we have our Blackbird. So it's a very nice old tune. And the second one is called Callahan's Hornpipe. There was two musicians who lived in Dublin, where I'm from, in the 70s. One man was called Joe Ryan from County Clare, a fiddle player, and the other person was a harmonica player and singer from County Cavan called Eddie Clark. They were two wonderful, wonderful musicians, and they played together a good bit, and of course we had a chance to play with them a lot too. And Joe Ryan, the man Joe Ryan, played with my father, who was a fiddler and concertina player himself, so they played a lot together also. And anyway, through the musical communities, what happens sometimes is that tunes pass through and become very, very popular and are played a lot. So these tunes were popular at the time and played a lot, and so we learned them when we were growing up. We'll play them for you this evening here. Are we in Phoenix City here? Is this where we are? Well, where are we?
Columbus.
Oh, we're in Columbus. Oh, right.
Phoenix City's the other side of the river.
Almost Phoenix.
Oh, it's on the other side of the river.
Yeah. You can throw a rock in me.
What river is that?
The Chattahoochee.
Oh, right. You're not pulling my leg now, are you?
No.
Chattahoochee, right. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks very much. So I'm going to try now a couple of reels for you. So these are the types of tunes James was mentioning earlier that are in 4/4. So these are tunes that I'm going to play on this flute here, which is made of wood. It's a little bit different than the silver flutes you might have seen in classical music or jazz. And this is an old one. That's a Rudel and Rose from the 1840s. So the orchestral musicians used to play these before the newer system of flutes came in. And so when the newer system came in, these became widely available and inexpensive. And so that's when they became popular in Irish music shortly after that. So there was flute playing in Irish music before that, but it boosted. It was a booster. So I'm going to try a couple reels for you. So the first one is one called Hickeys, and it's one that I learned from the playing of a great fiddle player from Kerry, Dennis Murphy, I believe, played this one. And then I'll try one after that called The Merry Sisters of Fate, and it's a very old tune, but I'm not sure where I learned it. Seamus Ennis played it, who was a great piper, but I heard recently a great flute player named James Murray from Sligo in the northwest of Ireland recorded it and did a great job on it. So that was very great to hear. So if you like this one, it's on his CD, not on mine. I just gotta remember how they go. thanks.
Well, we're going to stay with the reels, and we're going to play a selection of 3 reels for you next. So Sean mentioned that that in my case I came in the 70s, and I did a lot of touring at that time, to be honest with you. Not so much these days, but at that time I did a lot of touring. And 3 of the reels that I played with different musicians along the way throughout that journey of life were these next 3 reels we'd like to play for you. So from time to time you picked up tunes from, who knows where you get them from cassette tapes or from people or from, you hear a tune that somebody plays, you're learning the tune. Could be any situation. And so I learned the first tune that way off a recording of a woman called Imelda Rowland, and Imelda Rowland was from Portumna in County Galway. Are you familiar with the geography of Ireland? Well, Galway in the west, and Portumna is a big town in Galway. Her brother Raymond Rowland was a famous accordion player from that same family, and he lived in London for many, many years. Reel number 2 is called the Jug of Veil. Did anybody here ever have a jug of ale? You ever have a jug of ale? Did you have one, Sean?
I had a few last night.
So I had a few myself. So the Jug of Ale. And the last one is called the Capel House Reel. So I grew up in the middle of Dublin on a street called Capel Street. And on the top of Capel Street, just up from our river, your river is the Chattahoochee here, and my river is the Liffey. So up from the Liffey, a stone's throw up from the Liffey, would be our shop. We had a small little shop on Capel Street in Dublin, and people used to come there regularly down through the years, visiting musicians and friends of the family and that. So, we got a chance to meet many, many musicians and made a lot of friends along the way. So the last reel, my father used to play in the concertina, and I didn't have a name on that particular tune at the time. So Paddy O'Brien, one of the musicians I worked with, decided to call it the Cable House Reel, and that's where the name came from. It probably has its own name, but I don't know what that name is yet. So we'll play these 3 reels for you. thanks very much. I'd like to play something myself this time, and I'd like to switch gears for a moment and play you a slow air. So, in the Irish music tradition, we have the singing traditions, the singing in Irish, our Shannon singing, our old style singing, and the English singing traditions, and also the dance music, reels, jigs, hornpipes, and so on. And we also have the Lamentations, which can commemorate many different things. It could commemorate the loss of somebody, or people leaving the country, or some loss of. For example, there was a consignment of books lost off the coast of Kerry, and there's a beautiful song that was written called Auran and Yaur, the song or the music of the books, lamenting the loss of these books, because at that time, unlike the time that we live in today, everybody's on their telephones today, but people actually read books if they could read, and so that would have been a great loss at that time in the mid-1800s, if you were able to read and you had a chance to read, and suddenly that chance literally sank in front of your eyes. But anyway, this is an air I'd like to play for you. I haven't played it for a long, long time. I just thought of it right now. It just came to my mind, and it's called. Let me think of the name quickly. Sholem Ain in Irish. Sholem Ain Nagaina rowing. I know Scott knows. I can't fool Scott here, but Sholem Ain. If you could picture the young girl going down a road or a little side road or something, and the geese are in front of her, and she's shooing the geese down the road in front of her, and so that's the name of this air. So I'd like to play it for you. Sholem Arain again and rowing, meaning she was shooing the geese down the road. Now if I can remember it. my father moved to Dublin, and my father was from Clare. He was a concertina player and a fiddler, and he moved to Dublin in 1945 from County Clare, West County Clare, and a very, very rural place. He lived. If anybody looked at the map of County Clare, there's the point, the tip of the county that goes out into the Atlantic Ocean. That's where he came from, and the nearest big town was about 12 miles away. It was called Kilkee. I don't know if anybody here was in Ireland, but if you're in Kilkee. So at that time, of course, when he was born in 1912, the idea of going to Kilkee was like going to America, because you didn't leave your community, you stayed in your community. But later, when he grew up a little bit and he became interested in music, then he was able to get on an old bicycle often, and he'd cycle somewhere for a few tunes or whatever. He was learning the fiddle at the time too, so he actually got a chance on occasion to go to Kilkee, but people usually didn't leave their localities, they stayed in their localities. And so anyway, eventually he left West Clare and he moved to Dublin. He met my mother in 1944. She was working in a restaurant in Dublin at the time. She was from a county called County Wicklow, just directly below Dublin, the county of Dublin. And they got married and they bought a shop in Capel Street. So in the late 50s then, of course, as I mentioned earlier on, there's visiting musicians coming through the shop, and people who would travel back from England on their way to the various counties around the country would also stop in for a meeting, hello, and catch up on the news and all that, and just to say hello to my mother and father. But there was a classically trained musician who was living in Dublin at the time. He was the director of the Abbey Theatre, and so he was the music director when plays would take place at the Abbey Theatre. This man he was actually John Reedy at the time, and his name, he used the Irish expression of his name, which became Sean O'Riada. And so he was the artistic director at the Abbey Theatre in Dublin, and he had a group of about 6 musicians who he would work with, and what they would do is they would organise the music for the various plays that were presented at the Abbey Theatre. And there was a couple of other plays going on in Dublin at the time, and I can only remember one of them. It was called The Song of the Anvil, and there was a group of traditional musicians who were part of that particular play, and there was another play going on at the same time, and there was a group of musicians also involved in that play. And so they would meet socially around that time, 1959, and from those meetings came the idea of forming a traditional ensemble made up of traditional musicians, and the idea was to present music to the general public for the first time in the history of this music. And that kind of sparked on. It was one of the sparks that moved the tradition forward, particularly in the 60s. And so Sean O'Riada created this ensemble called Ceoltóirí Coolin. And Coolin is a place name on the south side of Dublin, on the way out to Bray, which is kind of going toward Wicklow. And he called it Ceoltóirí Coolin, the musicians of Coolin. And they created this group of musicians to play and present Irish music and song to the general public. And so at that time, my father was one of the musicians, a man called Sonny Brogan, Paddy Maloney, the piper, Michael Tuberty, the flute player, and Sean Potts and others as well. So they formed Ceoltóirí Coolin, and they made LPs at the time. They had public performances, and one thing led to another, and people became aware in their own way of their tradition, of the tradition of Irish music in Ireland at the time. So one of the tunes that they orchestrated, or one of the sets of tunes that they orchestrated, was a selection of slip jigs. 2 of them that they played, which are called the Winnie Hills of Leitrim. Leitrim is a county kind of in the northwest, and the second jig we don't have a name on. So what they did was they played the first one straight, and they overlapped the second tune with the first tune. So we're going to do the same thing for you to give you a little flavour of what Sean O'Reilly and Coulter Coolin were doing at that time. And then we're going to add on another jig at the end, which is called
Give Us a Drink of Water.
Give Us a Drink of Water.
All right.
There's lots more I could tell you, but I don't want to waft on all night long. But they're fascinating stories, you know. They're great stories. From Coulter Coolin came the Chieftains. Have you heard of the Chieftains?
Yeah.
So out of that group came the Chieftains, and it was an amazing time. Sean O'Reilly introduced the music of O'Carolan to the public for the first time ever. Would you have heard some of O'Carolan's music? He was a blind Irish harper, so and composer of music. So, okay. by the way, just before Sean introduces that next selection, one of the members of Coleman was a man called Sonny Brogan, and Sonny was an accordion player from Dublin. He lived up by Croke Park, and Croke Park is the park where all the Gaelic games, the big Gaelic games take place. The All-Ireland football final and the All-Ireland hurling finals traditionally take place at Croke Park. And Sonny used to, he dressed very well all the time, and he came down to our house a lot and the shop a lot. And at that time, we used to pray together. We'd say the rosary in the evening time. That was part of our ritual, our daily ritual. So we'd, you'd have to shop and you'd go to school. I went to school, and we went to church up the street there. Mass was up the street, and then in the evening time, we'd say the rosary together in the evening. But if Sonny was over visiting the house, Sonny would never dream of kneeling on the floor to say the rosary, because we all knelt down. He would kneel up in the chair, and not only would he kneel up in the chair, but he would kneel on a pillow on the chair, and then when he'd get off the chair, he was constantly cleaning his knees, And my mother used to be going around behind the scenes very, very upset, and she'd say, "Why is he cleaning his knees? My chair is not dirty." But anyway, I can see him.
Well, I think we're going to keep going now with some polkas. So we've got a lot of different tune types in the Irish tradition, and this is just another one. I think we might get a couple other ones out by the time we're done with you tonight. But polkas are in 2/2.
2/2.
All right, and so they're very very much dance music. So feel free to. There's plenty of the great big floor here.
Any dancers in the room here?
None who will admit it.
No.
So the first one is one that James sent to me. I think it was recorded by a flute player and singer named John Griffin, who was a bus driver, I think, in New York.
Yep.
And the autumn leaves are falling, and then a couple of polkas from some great fiddle players. One of whom I mentioned earlier, Dennis Murphy, and his sister Julia Clifford were really great fiddlers from Slieve Lucra and County Kerry, and they played the second two. So.
If anybody needs a seat, there might be a few more seats in the back there. Are you okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I'll play a tune for you on the pipes now. So just for those of you who may not have encountered this instrument before, it's it's blown with a bellows, so I don't have to blow into them. That's a common question I get after the gigs. Where is the air coming from? So I pump with this thing here, and then in each one of these pipes there's a reed. So there's 7 reeds all together. And pump air into the bag here. And then this is the chanter. This is what the part of the pipes that produces the melody. Then there are the drones that play 3 notes, the 3 different octaves of the same note. And then there are the regulators, these keys here that I play with my wrist or with my fingers for accompaniment, and they sound like this. So, it's quite a lot to handle for all of us, potentially. So I'm going to try an air that I played the other night, the Snowy Breasted Pearl, which is a really nice love song that was sang by John McCormick, who is a famous Irish tenor who recorded in New York. And I actually learned it originally from a recording of Leo Rosum, who was a great piper and pipe maker, and who made this set of pipes here for Al Purcell, who was also a great piper and a great teacher, who was my teacher in Detroit growing up. Al was from Dublin, and he passed away maybe 16 or 17 years ago, something like that. And they kept the pipes in the family in case any of his grandkids might decide to play, but they're all grown up and none of them play the pipes, so I was very fortunate to get them. So I'm gonna play this slow air for you. I hope you like it. All right. we're gonna keep going now with 3 jigs. The first one's called the Cauliflower, and I asked James where does this one come from last night, and he told me the ground. So I know better now tonight. And
Ask me again.
But where's the second one come from?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's called the Humors of
Bell and the Fauna.
and it's a really nice jig. And the last one is Tap the Barrel, and these are ones that James recorded.
Yeah.
Was it Melodic Journeys?
Yeah.
One of his albums that's back there. It's a really great CD, Melodic Journeys, so I learned them from that. So we'll try these two. first tune come from, James?
The ground.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think we're going to play a couple more for you. It's been a pleasure to play for you, your lovely audience. And we're going to ask a friend to join us now, Nathan Glazier. Put your hands together for Nathan's going to play guitar with us. We thought it fitting to have some guitar accompaniment in the guitar shop, so.
Don't be shy.
All right.
There you go.
So I think we're going to play 3 jigs. Again?
Do we know what they are?
The Munster jig. The Women of Monaghan.
Nice.
Unless you had another one that you'd want to play.
Well, do you want to try the Pappy corner watchers?
Yeah.
Let's play that together.
Yeah?
2 reels in G.
Okay, we'll play a couple reels instead. So these are 2 reels from a great flute player, John McKenna, who was from the county Leitrim and lived in New York. Made a lot of 78 records there. He was himself and another great flute player named Tom Morrison. Between the two of them, really put the flute on the map in Irish music in a lot of ways. I mean, there were people playing it, but they were some of the earliest people to record on 78 records, and they were both great players. So this is one of McKenna's.
Right. Sean asked me if I'd try something for you. So the people who ended up emigrating from Ireland, and of course the emigration obviously has been going on for hundreds of years, but the biggest number of people came to this country around the time of the famine, the Great Famine in Ireland, between 1841 and 1847. But there were actually other famines as well. That wasn't the only famine. There were famines earlier than that, into the early 1800s, and sadly people had to leave in desperate circumstances. They were forced to leave. Now, toward the end of the 1800s and then into the early 1900s, amongst that huge number of people who left were some very, very famous Irish musicians. One of them was an uilleann piper from County Galway by the name of Patsy Toohey. And Patsy Toohey was the first person who sold his music commercially.
I think so, yeah.
On the cylinder recordings. You know what the cylinder? You know what cylinders are? The old cylinder, the Edison cylinders. He sold recordings for commercially, and he was very successful in his life. He was a successful businessman, and a fantastic Irish musician. He was an amazing and an extraordinary musician. Now, Patsy Toohey, unfortunately, seemed to be born at the wrong time in a sense in terms of his influence, because I feel that his influence could have even been greater had he been born a couple of years later. But the person who was born at the right time was a man by the name of Michael Coleman, who was born in 1891 and died in 1945. And like Patsy Toohey, he was an extraordinary musician, fiddle player from Sligo, and was able to he was able to go through that recording process, and he was in the earlier discs, the old 78 disc technology that they had, and then that went into the old 78 recording. So Michael Coleman's music was legendary and monumental in its effect on the tradition itself, and anyway, his music to the present day is felt throughout this tradition, as is the music, I suppose, of Patsy Toohey. Maybe not quite as broad spread as Michael Coleman's playing, but musicians, of course, would be very, very aware of the greatness of Patsy Toohey. Now, Michael Coleman recorded 2 hornpipes. I'll just play one of them for you. It was a recording he made on a 78, and he played 2 hornpipes called the stage hornpipe and the western hornpipe. And I'd like to just play one for you right now. It's called the stage hornpipe, and I learned them from Michael Coleman's playing. Thank you.
That's all right.
Okay, finish off.
Yeah, okay, well, we're going to play one more for you. So, just like to say a big thanks to Frank and Ashley for having us. It's great to be here. Also, thanks also to Matthew McCabe for having us. Really appreciate it. Great to be here. And then, of course, thanks to Nathan for joining us, and also a big thank you to Scott Miller, who is putting us up tonight and will be putting us out tomorrow, I believe. Scott is a good friend, and we wouldn't be here if it weren't for Scott. So let's hear it for Scott as well.
Scott, thank you very much.
Okay, I think
Drunken landlady.
we're gonna play two reels: the drunken landlady and the lady on the island. I don't know, is it the same lady or?
She fell out.
Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy. I don't know if that's a good thing to have a drunken landlady or not. You know, can you be late with the rent, you think?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so two reels. Well, thanks again, everybody. Great to play for you.